Go. Oh, jeez. Alright.
Victory looks good on me.
Hey guys, over here playing some Skullgirls. Oh jeez.
Target confirmed.
Showtime!
Ow. Oh wow, already? Not what I meant to do.
Here comes shot. Watch and learn.
Darn it. After we're done playing some of this Skullgirls, we're going to react to some lost episodes.
Target confirmed.
Showtime!
Oh, shoot. Ow. Hit home. He tried. Won't
Take
work
the
for
shot.
me. Oh, what was that?
Take the shot. Your boss won't be so merciful.
It's called Skullgirls, but you have to you either have to have some Wi-Fi or some mobile data for the game data to download. But this is kind of a hard game.
Of course you know this.
Oh, I'll be right back. I'll be right back, guys. Okay. Oh shoot, I'm back.
Fight! Showtime! How the story ends?
I give the orders.
Now it's time to look at the lost episodes. Now time to look at the lost episodes. 25 lost episodes. Lost cartoon
Lost episodes of cartoons can be really messed up and creepy. There are many creepypastas that talk about lost cartoon episodes, ones that never aired and nobody can find real footage of them. Keep in mind that this video is purely for entertainment purposes, and these creepypastas are all fictional. It's still really scary to think about these and how the internet can make such dark stories. This video does have some dark themes, so you should watch it at your own risk. With all that being said, let's get on to some of the creepiest lost cartoon episodes. First, we're going to be talking about The Grieving from the Amazing World of Gumball. This story in particular is extremely disturbing. So it starts off with the narrator Sarah watching Adult Swim really late into the morning, and then an ad comes on for a special episode of The Amazing World of Gumball. The title card reveals that the episode is called The Grieving, and it was 30 minutes instead of the usual 11. The episode began with Gumball standing alone facing a corner of his dimly lit school classroom, crying and completely miserable. It was nighttime outside, and nobody else was around him as he cried for a minute of the episode. After this scene, we see Gumball's father, Richard, looking even more miserable and sobs intensely while sitting on a sofa. Richard's crying gradually got worse, and it wasn't the normal cartoon crying you'd see, but instead more realistic and depressing. Eventually, the scene changed to Gumball's parents in Principal Brown's office. The principal informs them that Anais and Darwin were not present earlier that day. Their bodies had been found, and then it goes into graphic and nauseating detail to describe that. After this scene, we get an insanely creepy flashback of the police searching the wooded area outside of the school. They finally discover the horrible fate of Anais and realize that her head was found in a small box. Realistic blood covered the box completely, but Anais's head was drawn in the normal cartoonish style. After watching this scene, the narrator calls her brother and asks if he has seen this on TV as well. She finds out that only she can see The Grieving, and an old rerun of a Looney Tunes short is playing on her brother's TV. Then we get back to the episode after the narrator desperately tries to turn off her TV and stop playing the episode, but nothing is working and she is forced to watch the rest. Gumball's parents were still talking to the principal, asking if Gumball was alright, seemingly unaware of the previous moments where they found out Gumball died. The police were called again, and Gumball was found in a classroom hanging by a noose. Blood covered the knife behind him, and blood covered his clothing. The episode ended with Gumball's dead body hanging in the corner, fading to black. In the credits, the narrator discovers a familiar name and messages him on Twitter. But before she can message him, she sees a few video clips after the credits of various disturbing things. I don't want to say exactly what they were because honestly it was terrible to read, but you probably don't want to know. Eventually it's found out that this episode was just a sketch of the Wattersons and Friends, something never supposed to be released, and it was made a very long time ago. But then this person who worked on the show says that there was no blood and guts in the episode, no dead bodies, and nothing really creepy. The theory is that some lunatic edited the tape, hijacked the local TV station, and got the episode to air on the narrator's local Cartoon Network station. Someone made this episode in video form, and it's pretty creepy. The next Lost episode is not as well known as The Grieving, but I found this one really scary. It's an episode of Blue's Clues called No Clues. The narrator tells this story as a flashback since it happened in 2001, and he was recommended by his older sister to watch a Blue's Clues VHS. Strangely, it was a red VHS, but the back and other sides were all white. His older sister, Julie, put the VHS in the player and watched the Blue's Clues episode. It began with a weird Nick Jr. logo on the screen for 7 seconds, and then it went to the actual episode. The Blue's Clues intro started, but there was no joyful guitar music and instead depressing piano sounds. Steve says, "Hi, play with me," in a voice that didn't sound like Steve at all. Then there's static and the house door opens, revealing a man that looks nothing like Steve but still wearing the same clothes as him. Then the TV went into static and Steve was back to normal. He said, "Hello little boys and girls, we don't play Blue's Clues today, sorry." The background kid said, "Why not?" And then the screen went into a tiny burst of static, revealing a dead corpse of Blue. She was on her back, her stomach ripped open, and her intestines tied around her. The eyes were popped out of her sockets. Steve began to smile at the camera and then said, "You kids will learn about death." Soon after, there's static, and a 666 can be seen if you look closely enough. Then Steve gives Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper juice, but they soon realize that it's actually cyanide and poison. Steve was satisfied at his murder, so he kept going. He went after Shovel and Pail, telling them that they're next. He sang Ring Around the Rosie in a creepy little girl's voice as he grabbed Pail and killed her. More static came on the TV for about a minute, and then we see Steve and Slippery Soap. Slippery is blindfolded, unaware of the terrible fate awaiting him. Steve counted to 3, then sliced him with a knife. He then turned to the screen and said that Satan was his king, that he needed to kill himself to make him happy. A rope sound came out of nowhere, and the Nick logo came on. It was in the shape of a knife, with the top of it being 666, and the bottom of it saying "Tu turno," which meant your turn. There were no credits, and the screen became static. The final Lost cartoon episode I'm talking about is SuicideMouse.avi. This is a shorter story than the 2 others, but it's still extremely creepy. There's an episode of Mickey Mouse walking past buildings continuously as a never-ending loop. There is no catchy tune playing in the background like you would expect, and instead there's either silence or screaming depending on how far in you are. Mickey wasn't dancing or smiling, just walking with a normal facial expression. Keep watching the full episode and it just randomly cuts to a black screen with no explanation. As it went on, everything started to get more distorted and you could hear blood-curdling screams. Mickey's face began to fall apart with his eyes rolling on the bottom of his chin and his smile pointing upward on the left side of his face. The screaming kept going on until 8 minutes in, and then it cuts to the Mickey Mouse face of the credits. According to the creepypasta, there was an employee who watched the final 30 seconds and then came out of the room repeating, "Real suffering is not known," before taking a guard's pistol and shooting himself in the head. You can find video clips of SuicideMouse.avi on YouTube, and they're pretty messed up. So yes, these are all fictional stories, but they're still incredibly scary. Good luck sleeping tonight. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to...
Oh, welcome!
Lost episodes of cartoons can be pretty creepy and messed up. If you didn't know, there are many creepypastas that talk about deleted cartoon episodes, ones that never came to air, and nobody can find real footage of them. Keep in mind that this is a video purely for entertainment purposes, and the creepypastas are all fictional. But still, it's interesting to see all this creepy stuff and how the internet can make such dark tales involving lost cartoon episodes, ones that never came the internet has to offer. If you're scared easily, you should probably avoid watching this video because there's some really dark themes. With all that being said, let's get on with the creepiest Lost cartoon episodes. I'm starting off with a Lost episode that many people have heard of, Squidward's Suicide. While I don't want to get into all the specifics of the story, just know that it involves Squidward getting really sad and eventually killing himself. There's a video on YouTube that was attached to the creepypasta itself. The video is called Squidward Suicide Original, and it just shows a picture of Squidward with bloodshot eyes staring into the camera. Some weird low-quality audio can be heard throughout the full video, but other than that, there really isn't much else. So it involved a lot of crying from Bart's fake Lost episode. The Season 8 episode, Are You Happy Now?, is where Squidward realizes that he has no happy memories and he becomes extremely depressed. There's actually a joke where it looks like he's about to hang himself, which is very dark. The creepypasta Squidward's Suicide came out years before Are You Happy Now?, so it wouldn't really be a stretch if the writers of SpongeBob got inspiration from that. Another interesting Lost cartoon episode is Dead Bart, which is a Season 1 Simpsons episode that never came to air. This episode started out with poor quality, and the Simpsons family was in a plane. Bart was messing around, but then he broke a window and was sucked out to his death. Act 2 of the episode involved a lot of crying from Bart's family, and this went on for several minutes. In the final act of the episode, it's a year later and the family visits the graveyard to see Bart again. Attached to the creepypasta page is a video called Die Simpsons Dead Bart, along with some German. The video is an edited, grainy version of the Simpsons theme song, and then it's just static for quite a while. In the last minute and a half, we see Bart lying in a coffin and the Simpsons family crying. This video was made to replicate what happens in the story, and while the full edited video isn't good, the premise of Dead Bart is truly a creepy one. The next creepypasta lost episode I want to talk about is Max and Ruby 0004. It's probably the most...
Okay.